Here's an interesting subject. Substitutional sacrifice. Substitutional sacrifice is actually laid out multiple times in the book of Vayechi and the book of Genesis. We see it first really with Adam, where God kills this animal. I believe it's a lamb. But this animal has to die in place of Adam. Okay? The second one is God's promise to Abraham here in his covenant. He's making a blood covenant. And in a blood covenant, both people have to provide blood. And they're basically saying that, I'm shedding this animal's blood, or sometimes even, but mostly it's the animal blood. I'm shedding this animal's blood, but if I break the covenant, you can shed my blood. And what's interesting about in Genesis 15, that Abraham, God goes through as a smoking furnace, and we know that the Torah shows God as smoke and cloud in many places in the Torah. And then when it's Abraham's time to go through to keep his side, to walk through this covenant of the pieces that have been sacrificed, laying there, walk through that blood, he doesn't go through it. Instead, a fire goes through it. And fire doesn't represent humans. Fire represents God also. So in this, basically what God's saying is, I'm going to keep my side. That's the first trip through. And by the way, when you mess up, I'm going to pay for your side too, with my blood. Now that gets a little weird, because people say, well, you can't kill God because he's a spirit, and you can't resurrect God because you can't kill him. It's like, he made the covenant, not me. So you need to talk to him about how he's going to do that. But the whole point is the principle for that is there. Here's another one. When Abraham is about to sacrifice his son, his only son, okay, they're going up there, and Isaac says, hey, we've got fire, we've got wood, we've got everything. Where's the lamb? Where is the lamb? Look very carefully at what Abraham said. Abraham's speaking the words of God here. God will provide himself the lamb for the burnt offering, my son. Very careful at what that's saying. It does not say God will provide for himself a lamb. It said God will provide himself the lamb. That actually comes very close to explaining what can happen in Genesis 15 if God provides himself as the lamb. So we see this idea of substitutional sacrifice. We see this idea prophetically of God himself. You'll have to figure out how he does that. But I can tell you that it is a very powerful picture of God keeping both sides of his covenant and promising himself as a lamb offering when he's asked to offer, when Abraham is asked to offer up his only son. It's a powerful picture of Yah's principle of substitutional sacrifice. Look what he says here. Take your son, your only son Isaac, offer him up as a burnt offering. And then Abraham looks, and there's a ram, a male lamb. Okay? And he takes that and offers it instead of his son. Substitutional sacrifice. It's a biblical principle. And what does Abraham call the place? Abraham called the name of that place, Yahweh will provide, as it is said in this day. Yahweh's, watch this. He does this after the sacrifice. This is what he's saying in verse 14, after he has sacrificed it. Okay? Verse 13, he went and he took the ram, offered it for a burnt offering instead of his son. Then turns around and prophetically speaks. Verse 14, Abraham called the name of the place, not Yahweh did provide, Yahweh will provide. The Lord, not the Lord did provide in past tense, but the Lord will provide. As it is to this day, on the Lord's mountain, it will be provided. Amen. Prophecy. Yes. This is what will happen on this mountain, in this place. Amen? Yes,